Hello everyone, this is video 13. It's all about slope. So if you could start off by grabbing your highlighter or pen and underlining that word slope. We've been doing it a little bit already. There's this little more formal because you need to be able to get it given a graph, 2 points, or a table pretty consistently. So these notes hopefully will help you. Ideally, let's highlight this, the steepness of a line, how steep a line is. So if you could just draw a line with your pencil here between these 2 points. Doesn't have to be perfect. So I want to know how steep it is, not how long it is, but how much it's slanting. All right, and there's a couple ways to do that. And so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to connect them, starting with the bottom one here. So I want you to draw up and over, just as high as the 2 points are from each other, and then as wide as they are. So that where they are determines how far up and over. So it's a rise, let's label this, a rise of 4 and a run. Excuse me. It's the rise and the run, which kind of makes sense. We always go up and down and then right or left to the next point. All right, so it's a rise over run. All right, and so that tells us how much up and over they are. And so if you could write this right above here, you were going to use this idea of rise and run from tables or graphs. And so you just got one from a graph, all right? And we're counting the blocks. So not the points, but actually the blocks high. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So rise over run. The steepness is the change in y over the change in x. Delta is the symbol for change. Oh, my Delta students, but you like that. All right, and so I also want you to see that sometimes you're not given the points, or sometimes you're given the points only, or you can see the points on the graph. So can you do me a favor and label this point 4, 3, so over 4 and up 3. That's the location of that point, and then the location of this point is 9, 7. All right, and so can you also write here, this is the most writing you're going to do, from 2 points, you're going to use this formula right here. And I have this typed on your paper already. This is what's going to be given on the keystone, this little formula that if you would forget it, and this is what we use for 2 points. And so you can use, it's always the change in y. So the y is how tall this is, right? So I know it's 4 blocks tall. And so mathematically, I can see that from the y's, the 7 and the 3, it is 4 high. So if you could write 7 minus 3, so I subtract the y's in either order, 7 minus 3, or 3 minus 7, that's sort of what this means right here. It doesn't matter as long as we stay in the correct order. So this x sub 2 means since I took this second y here minus the first y, I got to take the second y, the 9, minus the 4. And that's how wide it is, from 9 minus 4. So 9 back down to 4 is 5. And so mathematically, I can see that the slope is 4/5 as well, from the 2 points or from how tall the rise and the run from the graph. Right? So we're going to do 8 examples. Stay with me. And mark up your paper as you see me doing that. All right, I'm going to try to give you hints. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate you listening. Let's start by putting 2 points. If I want to know the line slope, put points where you can easily read the full blocks. And so I'm putting one here at the center. That's the y-intercept in this case. And I'm looking, that's not, here it is, right here. See, it's right on a corner. I'm putting that there. And so I just need to label the rise and the run. This is kind of easy. It's not as easy when you can't draw on it. So when you're looking on the graph, it's a little more difficult. You might have to zoom in with your hands or count with your fingers there. So this is a rise of 3 and a run to the right of 1. So 3 over 1. And I'm pretty sure Get More Math wants us to reduce that. So that's just 3. It's a slope of 3. It's slant, and you can see it's slanting through 3 blocks. 3 blocks over 1 through 3 blocks. All right, number 2. What's the point through these, what's the slope, of the line through these 2 points? And so now they're not giving us a picture. And there's 2 ways to do it, and I've typed this up for you, all right? And so I want you to take a look. You can easily write the points above and below each other. And I think a lot of you will like this because then you're just going to look for the rise. All right, so just draw a little kind of V shape here at the rise from 0 to 10. And you guys have been looking for what it's changing by. That's going up from 0 to 10. That's going up 10, right? And then I look for the run because that's how wide it would be, the X is. The run, I'll go ahead and write that there. Now it's going from a negative of 11 down to negative 12, going smaller. So it's down 1. And all I have to do is calculate and write a fraction for rise over run, all right? And that is negative 10. Okay, my answer is negative 10, a slope of negative 10, so it's going to be a really steep downward line, and I don't have to see the picture of it. Now I want to show you the formula sheet way, all right? And so if you could take a look at, if you have a highlighter or even if you have a pen or pencil, draw an arrow to this. This is the Y's. The Y's are the rise, all right? And so we always do Y's on the top of the calculation. And so I'm taking 0 minus 10. You could have done 10 minus 0, but then you would have had to do the 12 minus 11, right? So 0 minus 10 is negative 10, and feel free to use your calculator to get this right, especially look at this bottom one. I do go in the same order, negative 11 minus negative 12. I just type that all in my calculator, and you guys are good at that. That turns out to be a positive one. Now that looks different from the calculation we just did, treating it as a little table, but I'm still going to get the same answer in my calculator. A negative 10 divided by a positive 1 is negative 10. And so my answer for this slope is negative 10, and there's two different ways to do that. And I really wanted to show you both ways. All right, we've been looking at tables already. So I just want you to mark this up here, all right, and show that it says, what's the rate of change? So I need the rise here, all right, and I need it to be go from negative 6 down to negative 7, so it's going farther away from 0, so that's a negative 1. And from 5 to 6, it's going up 1. And so I don't have to check anymore because it says I have a rate that I need to find. So I'm just doing a rise between one set of points and the run. And so I just use rise over run, all right? And I kind of wrote my rise over run here. I'm going to write it a bunch of times so I remember. Rise is negative 1, all right? And run is positive 1, right? And so when I divide that, I get a negative 1 slope, right? Rise over run. Some of you are going to like that because it's easy to see. Just y's over exit. Rise is y's. Rise over 1. Now this next one's an undefined answer, so go ahead and circle that up, undefined, and I want to show you both ways to do this. Now, I personally like to go and if I'm given 2 points, I could draw it on a graph and see it on the graph, those on the graph. All right, but I like to write them one above each other, like they're in a little table. So write them above each other, right? 2, negative 1, and the point 2, negative 5. And what do you, hold on. What do you people see right away? What do you notice? Do you need to do any calculating at all? No. If you can write them above each other and say, oh, look, all the x's are the same, that's an x line, that's undefined. That's all you need to do. Now, if you did do the calculation, okay, so just write this down. Just really quickly, I have the y's because it's y's over x's, so I wrote it for you. Negative 5 minus a negative 1 is negative 4. Okay. Over the x's, so I subtract it. 2 minus 2 is 0, right? And when I do negative 4 divided by 0 in my calculator, I get undefined, right? So there's two ways to do it. You can use the equation sort of formula way to calculate the slope, or you can kind of use the logic table way, looking for a rise and a run and recognizing that's an undefined line. Okay, we have 4 more. Flip the page and you have another graph, all right? And I want you to, it says, what's the line slope? So I want you to put a point where you can easily read some points. I'm going to put one here and I'm going to put one down here. Now there's a bunch of places you could have put them. I'm just putting them kind of easily where I can see those. And so I'm going to label the rise. So the rise goes from this upper point down. So I have to write it as a negative 3. It's going down. And then the run is going to the right. So it's 3. And so I just use my calculator, and please just calculate it up to get it right. Negative 3 divided by 3. These are rise and runs are always a fraction, and I can calculate a lot of them. all right, equals -1. Now here's another example of a table. And it says, what's the rate of change? So it's not asking me to decide if it's got a rate. It's telling me it has a rate. So I am just going to draw one little line here that says, what's the rise? It's going from -6 to -8. Well, that's dropping 2. You guys are getting really good at that. And then I'm looking for between the 3 and the 4. Well, that's a 1. 3 going up to 4 is a 1. So rise over run, right? And so I'm going to do -2 over 1. And my answer is going to be -2. So most likely I'll just type in a -2 and to get more math. I'm looking for rise over run in the table. 2 more. Thank you so much. This one is a little more complicated. I'm going to ask you just to take a breath when you see this and know that you're going to have to look for the scale. So let's mark this up. It says, what is the slope? Use the y-intercept and the purple dot. They're calling this purple, all right? I think it's kind of pinkish, but, and so you said use this dot here, and they're telling me to use the y-intercept. So when you see this on the computer, you're gonna say like, okay, I'm going from the y-intercept down here, and I want you to draw in for me an L shapes, because it's going down. I want you to draw a rise that's going all the way down and all the way over. So just as far down, to the same kind of height as that pink purple dot. All right, and then the question is how many? And now you might go too fast. I know some of you you just rush a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 blocks, right? But it's not 8, right? Because this one is starting at 1,000, right? 1,000's between 800 and 1,200, right? And this one is -600, right? Because it's going -200, -400, -600. So really, how high is that drop, right? And that is a -1,600 drop from 1,000 to 0 and then down to 600, -600, right? I could just subtract that. I could do -600 minus 1,000, right? I can be logical about this. And then I'm going here, I believe this is 200, from 0 out over to 200. So the rise is -1,600. I'm sorry, yes, -1,600. Negative. I'm going to put a negative in my work, excuse me. And the run is 200. And so my answer would be a -8, all right? All right. And I'd counted 8 blocks there, but then there was 4. And if I had done 8 divided by 4, that would have been a 2. That would have got me the wrong slope, right? So I need -1,600 divided by 200. That's I think, just going to be the one that takes a little more time for us. Okay, and this last one here is the rate of change between these two numbers, these 2 points, excuse me. And I'm going to write them above each other. A lot of times I just do this first, people, and that helps me see the y's over the x's. You could use the formula, but and I'll show you that. But if I look at these, look, I know you guys are good at this. You see the -5s in the y column, and you know what the slope is, right? You know that slope is 0 because that's the slope of a y line, right? There's no change, okay? Mathematically, I'm just going to show you one more thing here. If I put the y's, all right, the -5 minus the -5, I'd get a 0. And then if I did the x's, -8 minus 0, I'd get a -8. And when I put that in my calculator, and I would say if you're going to use this formula, actually take a moment and actually use your calculator because your brain's going to mix these up and say it's undefined if they see a 0 or something. 0 divided by -8 is 0. All right, and that's all your examples for slope. Please make sure you've written all this stuff down and that you use these notes when you do work. Thank you so much.